And we should be live. How y'all doing tonight? I still, no matter how many times I do these things, I still forget what I'm supposed to do when I come on to here. I gotta push a bunch of buttons and different things to get everything to go. Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully everybody had a nice Monday today. Got a couple things I want to talk about today, and then a bunch of you guys in the chat already asked a few questions. I'll go over and answer some of those questions, and then we'll kind of go from there. The main thing that I kind of want to start talking about the beginning of this stream is the video that I uploaded about the Manitowoc ice machine. Nasty one that was all dirty that everybody, it kind of blew my mind how many views that got, and it kind of went in a direction that I really didn't want it to go. I mean, I was trying to, oh, thanks a lot, Mike. I really appreciate it. It went in a direction that, I mean, I knew it was, I put a thumbnail like that to kind of get the attention of how dirty that ice machine was. But what's interesting is that my channel is starting to draw attention from people that aren't in the trade, which is very interesting. YouTube's algorithm is changing or something like that, and they're recommending it to people that have nothing to do with HVACR, which I don't mind because my channel essentially is not a do-it-yourself channel. The general homeowner or restaurant owner can't really watch my videos and say, oh, okay, I want to fix the ice machine, I leave out a lot purposely for that reason because I don't want people to try to use it as a DIY channel or anything like that. But it's drawing the attention of people that aren't in the industry that think, that is the most absolute disgusting thing in the world, that I should notify the health department and all that different stuff. And I mean, for those of you that already work with ice machines, you probably already know that ice machine that I had in that video really wasn't even that dirty. Matt, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. But yeah, that ice machine, I've seen so much worse as far as ice machines go over the years. And a lot of people don't realize that that stuff that was in the ice machine, that slime, and, when you see calcium and different things in the ice machine, I mean, a lot of times that stuff, it's not a big of a deal as people think it is. It's still disgusting. Don't get me wrong. And, and I mean, nobody wants to eat that kind of stuff or have a drink with it or anything like that. But it still kind of blew my mind how that video kind of blew up. I will address the chat here in a little while. I'm going to kind of just go over these topics and stuff, and then I'll start looking at the questions and everything. Right to start off, the thing that I want to address is ice machine cleaners. Okay, I've said this before, and I kind of don't feel like I can say it enough. I want to keep saying it. It's very important to understand what cleaners you need to use for ice machines and which one for which ice machine, essentially. Okay, so it's pretty safe to say that on a Hvacr ice machine, it's pretty safe to say that's the only one that you can use the clear, pure phosphoric acid ice machine cleaners. Okay, now if you use Hvacr's actual cleaner, it's called Scale Away. It's a total different mixture, but you never want to use the clear new Calgon pure phosphoric acid cleaner on pretty much any of the other brands of ice machines. It's pretty safe to say, okay? There's certain instances where you can, but just to be safe, on any of the other brands, you want to make sure you're using some kind of a nickel-safe ice machine cleaner, okay? And I've kind of addressed this before, but I'm just going to reiterate it. Most ice machine manufacturers, most restaurant ice machine manufacturers, besides Hvacr, they have a copper evaporator that they dip in a nickel plating, because the copper is not a great place for ice to form. It has a hard time coming off of there. It's really bad with calcium and different things. So they coat it in a nickel coating, and that nickel coating is very susceptible to damage because of the acids that are in the phosphoric acid cleaner. Eventually, after so many cleanings, you will strip the nickel plating off the ice machine and destroy that evaporator. Okay, that goes for especially the Manitowoc ice machines, and pretty much all the other brands for the most part. Okay, I'm talking about the big boys, the Scotsmans, the Isomatics, the Hvacrs, the Manitowocs. Those are the ones that I'm kind of talking about right now. There's a bunch of off brands and different other ones too, but it's very important to understand what the cleaners are for. Okay, so that way you guys don't damage an ice machine. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that I've actually had the manufacturer of Manitowoc, like tech support, tell me, okay, I'm going to tell you this one time to go ahead and use pure ice machine cleaner. Okay, the clear, new Calgon phosphoric acid cleaner. They have told me to do that in the past when it's like a very, very messed up ice machine, okay? But it's only like a one-time thing. You do not want to continually use, and you want to make sure that you rinse that off really, really well. I've said this before too, and I'm just going to cover it, that something new that Hoshizaki Ice Machines has actually started saying, and I noticed it was in their tech specs book recently, and I don't know when it popped up, but I know in the past it was safe to use any ice machine cleaner on a Hoshizaki, okay? Didn't matter if it was nickel safe or the clear, pure, concentrated ice machine cleaner. Well, Hoshizaki has since put in their tech specs book that you can't use nickel safe ice machine cleaner on their ice machines. Now remember, a Hoshizaki ice machine has a pure stainless steel evaporator, okay? And what they're saying is that when you flip the little wash valve on the or cleaning valve, I should say, when you put the unit into a clean mode, what it does is it diverts water through the water inlet tubes of the spray rails, okay? And that's not the water pump circulating tubes, but that's the water inlet, okay? And the water basically can drip right down behind the evaporator plate. And what Hoshizaki is saying is that the nickel safe ice machine cleaner, the citric acid, I believe it's the citric acid that's in the nickel safe ice machine cleaner, they thought that maybe that was contributing to their evaporator separations that they've been having over the last couple of years. If you do any ice machine work, you'll know that the Hoshizaki ice machines have been notorious for the evaporator separating. And this has been like a new thing. And that was one of the things that they came up with that they thought was causing the problem, was that people were using nickel safe ice machine cleaner and it was getting in there. And in the book, I think it says that the solder that they use to solder the refrigerant lines to the evaporator plate, they're saying is that the citric acid was eating away the solder. That was their theory. Okay, it kind of sounds like they're reaching a little bit with that one, but it's important to understand and stay up on that stuff. So as of this moment right now, Hoshizaki says that if you have a nickel safe ice machine cleaner that has citric acid in it, they do not want you to use it on the Hoshizaki ice machines at this point in time. So you always want to stay up on that stuff, guys, because the ice machine manufacturers, they change stuff up on you, and it'll totally, throw you off. The last thing you want is to be using nickel safe ice machine cleaner on a Hoshizaki for 2 years straight, and then the evaporator separates and it's your fault. That's what you don't want, okay? So you just always want to follow the manufacturer's instructions. And I would even go out on a limb and say you may even want to consider, if you're worried about it, you may want to consider only using the manufacturer's cleaners. Personally, I don't do that, but that's my preference, and I'm the business owner, so I can make that decision, okay? But, like when I was doing hospital work, I don't do any hospital ice machines anymore, but for a good couple years, I was doing a lot of ice machines in hospitals. I would only use the manufacturer's cleaners because of the liability of being in a hospital and just all the drama that they have. Thank you so very much, 716 Appliance Guy. I really appreciate that. So, it's very important to understand, like I said, and read the manufacturer's instructions, okay? Just stay up on it, guys. Just because you know it now, 15 years from now, or 15 years later, it's not going to be the same thing, So you always want to make sure that you're on top of that stuff and you're keeping up with the Joneses, essentially, okay? Right now, I've said it before recently too, right now is the time. All the ice machine manufacturers are starting to release their training dates, I should say, their regional training dates. So you want to keep on top of that stuff. It usually starts at the beginning of the year, and then it'll go for the next 4 months where they're going to do regional trainings on all the different ice machines. That goes for Hoshi, Manny, Scotsman, Isomatic, Follett, all of them. They're all doing it right now. So keep up on the training schedules. Go to the individual ice machine manufacturers' websites. Also, too, it's always good at the beginning of the year to look up all your other manufacturers. If you work on a lot of Delfield refrigerators, if you work on True refrigerators, whatever you do, go to the manufacturers' websites, go to the training tabs, and look up when their training schedules are. True Manufacturing, they do a training class once or twice a year. They come around in everybody's areas, okay? So you want to keep on top of that. Go take a class. Most of the time, they're free. You get dinner. Don't get me wrong, even in the ice machine classes or the refrigerator classes, you're not going to learn. It's not going to be 4 hours of, solid learning. A lot of times it's going to be repetitive information that you've already heard. But you know what? I usually pick up 1 or 2 new things, and it also gives me the opportunity to communicate with, like, for instance, when I go with Manitowoc, to their training classes. You know, I don't usually learn a lot of new stuff. Same thing with Hoshizaki, but it's great to be able to speak to the trainers. The trainers a lot of times are just tech support guys, and sometimes it's cool to put a face to the name, you know, to go shake the guy's hand. For my area, for Manitowoc, the guy's name is Glenn Diamond. He's been the regional trainer forever and the tech support guy and everything. So it's really cool to get to talk to him and see him. Usually I only get to see him once or twice a year. He might come to a training class for my RSES thing or something. But it's really cool to be able to talk to those guys and just let them know who you are, you know, that kind of stuff. And then you get to meet up with your distributors and different stuff. So anyways, you always want to pay attention to that. So everybody go to whatever, you know, air conditioner, refrigerator, ice machine manufacturer's website and look for their training classes, because usually they're all releasing them right now. So I think I just signed up for the Manitowoc one in my area coming up in a month or two or something like that. So it's important too, because those classes fill up pretty quick. So you guys want to get on the list for that stuff. So we talked about the ice machine cleaners. You always want to make sure you know the right kind of ice machine cleaner. It's pretty safe to say, I'll recap, if you're working on a Hoshizaki ice machine, you can use the clear phosphoric acid ice machine cleaners, okay, or you can use the Hoshizaki scale away cleaner. They do not recommend that you use nickel safe ice machine cleaner, and if you're working on almost any other brand, it's pretty safe to say you need to use nickel safe ice machine cleaner. Okay, so that's kind of it for the ice machine cleaners. Really important, in the last video that I did on the dirty Manitowoc ice machine, I brought up, I showed you guys a part number for that tube brush or that fitting brush that I use. Those brushes are awesome. If you guys pick some of those up from Granger's, or I think I even found them on Amazon, but I gave a part number in that video if you guys go back and watch it, where it shows the fitting brush, and it's about 3 foot long, and it's a 1-inch diameter tube brush, and you can push it right up the tubes on the Hoshizakis, the Manitowocs, on all of those. I've even used those brushes to clean Hoshizaki spray rails. You just get it through the end, and then you can scrub the inside of it. So get you some of those fitting brushes. They're not that much. You know, get your service manager, your boss, or whoever to order a bunch for the company. Those things are great to keep in your van. You guys will really appreciate having those tube brushes if you don't already have them. You can also, if you don't know, I probably should show a picture of one. I'll send out a picture after we get off this live stream. Hoshizaki actually makes a special brush for cleaning the evaporators on their machines. It's a really hard bristle brush, and it's meant to basically put in the top. You take the top off the ice machine, and it's meant to put in the top and go up and down the evaporator, what do you want to call them, sections or whatever, and scrub them. So that way you can scrub them down. If you guys have ever done a lot of Hoshi work, you probably know that you bust your knuckles on those things and you cut yourself really bad whenever you're working on the Hoshis, like trying to clean them by hand. So one of those brushes from Hoshizaki would be great too. But don't get me wrong, that brush that I'm recommending from Hoshizaki, I do not have the part number, but again, I'll try to get that. The brush that I'm recommending from Hoshizaki, that's not for cleaning tubes. That's just for cleaning the evaporator. You basically just put it in the top and move it up and down. So that's a great thing to come up or to have too. I did cover in my last video, and I'll just kind of reiterate, usually you do not want to be using anything that's scraping the evaporators or the surfaces of the ice machines. Okay, same thing goes with Hoshizaki with all of them. All manufacturers are pretty much going to tell you that they only want you to use a towel or a terry cloth. Okay, now you and I both know that that's not always practical, especially when the restaurants don't maintain their equipment. So by the time you get to it, it's covered in calcium. Well, a towel and calcium, they don't really do much together. Okay, the towel doesn't take calcium off. So a lot of times you got to use like a Scotch-Brite pad. But the problem with a Scotch-Brite pad is that or steel wool or anything like that, or a screwdriver to scrape it off. The problem is that what you don't know is you're putting tiny microscopic grooves inside that surface, and that's a place for bacteria and things to grow. So that's why you want to be cautious about it. And it's always important to point that out to your customers too, so that way they understand, you know, that the lack of cleaning that they're doing is causing problems. It's going to decrease the life of this machine. It's going to, you know, all that good stuff. Okay, I don't need to preach that to you guys. So obviously you saw the machine that I had was a pretty dirty one, and it's pretty nasty inside. But, you know, like I said, that's not the dirtiest ice machine in the world. And I'll be honest with you, that machine didn't scare me. I've seen machines that actually grossed me out. That did not gross me out. I was just kind of like, ew, that's gross. But, you know, it wasn't like, oh my gosh. I've worked on some at some restaurants that like just make you want to get sick or go take a shower after you're done, because those are disgusting. But anyways, so ice machines, just kind of covering that. Okay. I'll give them a plug too. I don't have any endorsements or anything like that with them, but I really have been enjoying the Hvacr cleaner from Refrigeration Technologies. I have no affiliation with them. Okay. But the owner of Refrigeration Technologies, John Pastorello, I had emailed him about a question, and he sent me a case of the Hvacr cleaner just to try out, and I've been using it, and it's actually really cool. So I haven't bought any bottles per se. He just sent me the case of it, and I actually think it's working better than, for instance, like the new Calgon nickel safe ice machine cleaner. I find that it is you don't need as much also. So just a little plug for them, help them out. And that's the Hvacr nickel safe ice machine cleaner. So okay. I guess I can announce this right now too. I do not have anything up yet, but it is official that I am launching a podcast coming up quite soon. Hopefully I'll have episodes up in the next couple weeks. The podcast is going to be called The Absence of Heat. It's going to be a podcast covering refrigeration, air conditioning, ice machines, that kind of stuff. Kind of what we're doing in these videos, but more audio topics. I really haven't figured out the exact format yet, how long the episodes are going to be, that kind of stuff, but it will be coming soon. So expect that. And of course, I'll release all that information to you guys, and you'll have hopefully, if you guys are interested, you guys can go subscribe. But like I said, there's nothing out there for you to subscribe to yet. So I'll let you guys know when it does come. Okay, I want to address a question. Forgive me, I don't have your name written down. In the very beginning, before this live stream even started, someone asked a question about sight glasses when it comes to refrigeration and air conditioning systems, and I wanted to go ahead and cover that. Guys, I see all kinds of questions coming up inside the chat, and I promise I'll get to those, okay? I just want to cover this topic. So, sight glasses, okay? It's important to understand what a sight glass is, okay? It's a window into the system. It's plain and simple, okay? It does not have one purpose for the system. Okay, you can use a sight glass to do all kinds of stuff. But basically, what does a sight glass tell me? A sight glass tells me that at that point where it's installed in the system, either if you're using it to check liquid, to make sure you have like a clear sight glass, to make sure you have a solid column of liquid, it's just simply telling you that it's a solid column of liquid at that point. Okay, or the other purpose of a sight glass can be a moisture indicator. A lot of times they have a little indicator that's built into the sight glass, and it essentially tests the refrigerant and reacts to acids. It can react to moisture depending on what type of sight glass you're using, okay? So a sight glass can also be used as a moisture indicator and or an acid indicator, different things like that, okay? So why do they say that you can't clear a sight glass on a air conditioning system? And then why do they say that you can clear a sight glass on a refrigeration system? Okay, it's really important to understand something first, okay? A refrigeration system that has a expansion valve, that has a liquid line receiver storage tank, and is sized properly, okay? That's very important that we know those things right there, okay? If we have a refrigeration system that does utilize an expansion valve, that does have a receiver in it, okay, a sight glass can be used to check the refrigerant charge in the system, okay? Because we're operating off of the theory that we need to have a solid column of liquid going to the expansion valve, right? Because that's how an expansion valve works. Expansion valves and vapor, they don't really mix too well, okay? So coming into the liquid line of the expansion valve, we need to have 100% liquid, a pure solid column of liquid coming into there. So what we can typically do is we can install a sight glass, a liquid line sight glass, usually as close to the expansion valve as possible. But when I say that, that's kind of a loose term because most of the time you're going to see a sight glass on the roof at the condensing unit, okay? And it's okay, but it's even better if it's at the expansion valve. But here's the problem. If you have a sight glass at the expansion valve and you're trying to charge on the roof, well, how's that going to work? You're going to go up and down the stairs 3 times to, or multiple times to look. Oh, is it clear yet? No. Okay, keep adding gas. Okay, back and forth. That's going to be a pain in the butt. But a good thing, you don't see this very much anymore. A great thing would be a sight glass right before the expansion valve and a sight glass on the roof. Then you could charge the system up on the roof, slowly clearing the sight glass, and then you can go downstairs, verify that it's clear downstairs too, and then you would know that you have a solid column of liquid going to your expansion valve. Now, I haven't covered the accessories that we might add to a refrigeration system that would cause you to add more refrigerant, and I'll cover that here in a little bit, okay? But now let's talk about an air conditioning system. So why do they say that you can't clear a sight glass on an air conditioning system? Okay, first off, if an air conditioning system utilizes an expansion valve, it's still looking for a solid column of liquid going to that expansion valve. Okay, so there's nothing that says you cannot put a sight glass on an air conditioning system. It can still serve a purpose. It tells you if you do not have a solid column of liquid going to your expansion valve. It can tell you if you've got moisture in your system. It can tell you, basically it just tells you, you look to see if it's clear or not, okay? Now, but you typically don't charge an air conditioning system unless it has a receiver, okay? But just the typical residential air conditioning system, you typically don't want to charge it by clearing a sight glass, because a lot of times it's going to take a lot more refrigerant than just what it takes to clear that sight glass, okay? So then we would start looking into our vital signs and using the appropriate method, okay, of charging that system. So on a refrigeration system, we will have a receiver on there, and that receiver acts as a storage tank, okay? So basically when the expansion valve opens or closes, it's going to require more or less refrigerant, and if it requires less refrigerant, then it'll back that refrigerant up into the receiver, so it has a storage place for it, okay? So now I was going to say something else too, but I lost my train of thought there. Where was I going to go? Okay, so let's talk about a refrigeration system. Now, that is clearing a sight glass is a way that we can check the refrigerant charge. But there can be some components that we can add to the system, and I've covered them before, and one of them is called a head pressure control valve, or a headmaster, okay? A headmaster requires more refrigerant when it's bypassing, essentially, okay? So the purpose, and I'm not going to go crazy into this right now, but the purpose of a headmaster or a head pressure control valve on a refrigeration system is to flood the condenser, simulate, essentially, in a nutshell, a warmer day, okay? But it's also there to maintain a pressure drop across the expansion valve. But again, I don't want to go too technical, okay? So let's just assume the headmaster's there to raise the head pressure. That's where we're going to go as far as that today, okay? There's a lot more to it, but I'm just not going to go crazy into it right now. So, but in order for a headmaster to flood the condenser properly, it requires more refrigerant than what the system would normally take. So we have to add what we call the winter charge to the system, okay? The winter charge is usually a couple pounds extra depending on how big the system is. And if you have a sight glass, you can't just necessarily clear the sight glass. You would have to add the extra gas for the winter charge, okay? And in order to do that, I've done a live stream on that. I've done videos on that. You want to look up a Sporlan document, Sporlan 90-30-1, I believe is the name of the document. And it tells you how to calculate the flooded charge for a refrigeration system, okay? Again, I should probably do another video about this, or maybe a live stream. I'm not going to go too crazy into the headmaster stuff. Actually, I'm just going to stop with the headmaster right now because I'm just going to confuse everybody. So it's important to understand that a sight glass still does serve a purpose on an air conditioning system, okay? But on a refrigeration system that doesn't have any extra accessories, that it's just a pure condenser, receiver, expansion valve, no headmaster, you would clear the sight glass, and that would indicate that you have a full column of liquid going to your expansion valve. It's also important to understand, again, I'm kind of opening Pandora's box here. It's also important to understand that you don't want to just go clear the sight glass when the box temp is at 80 degrees and it's 120 degrees outside, because it's very likely that you're going to overcharge that system, okay? So you want to work slowly, usually take 20 minutes or so depending on how big your system is, and slowly add the refrigerant charge. What you're going to notice is as the box comes down to temperature and satisfies, then the sight glass is going to start to clear up a lot sooner, essentially, okay? So again, I know I'm rambling and going in a million directions there, but sight glass does serve a purpose on an air conditioning system, okay? It's just important to understand that it's not the end-all be-all as far as the refrigerant charge goes, okay? You want to follow the manufacturer's instructions to charge that system properly. But the cool thing that a sight glass can do is a sight glass on a like a residential air conditioning system is an indicator of a gross undercharge if you find it flashing. So, I mean, as far as PMs go, I mean, it couldn't hurt to have a sight glass on there. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean just because it's clear that the charge is correct, but if you're not putting refrigerant gauges on there and you just happen to do a visual inspection on that system and you notice that the sight glass is flashing, well, hey, it's still serving a purpose. And on a residential system, it can tell you if there's moisture in the system. So sight glasses still do have a purpose on a residential system, okay? Important to understand that. Okay. That's kind of what I have to cover here. So I'm going to kind of go into the chat a little bit, guys, and see what you guys have to say. Let me see here. Did someone say turn up my mic volume? Did I see that? Sound volume is down. Can you hear me now, HVACR Knoxville? Let me clarify. Can you guys hear? Someone said that the sound volume doesn't sound good. I hope you guys can hear, and I haven't talked for a half an hour and you guys can't hear. Okay, cool. Okay, all right, cool. Just wanted to make sure. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go up into here and look at the chat. I just kind of scrolled through a couple questions here as I was typing through. Some people asked about my new van. Yes, I did get a new van. I will do a video and everything. I'm slowly setting it up. It's going to take me some time, so it's not going to be anytime soon. I'm not in a rush to get into that van. So I've just been getting little things here and there and kind of trying to think about what I want to do with it. So we'll definitely have lots of videos showing my old setup, which my old setup was really cool. But there's a few things I'm going to change about my new setup. So, okay. Let me go through here, guys. Let me see what I'm... Yeah, see, I do see a lot of people saying that they can't hear very well. I'm sorry, guys, if you guys can't hear. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go down. Yeah, so just going through the chat, I'm looking and seeing that, the ice machine training classes, they are oftentimes a sales pitch, but you usually do you learn a few things in there. So I still suggest that you check them out, okay? Rookie refrigeration, you said you ordered bearings on a Follett ice machine. Those shouldn't be too bad. The Follett ice machines are usually pretty easy to change out. So, all right. Keep going down here. Okay, just kind of reading through here, seeing what I'm missing, seeing if you guys have any questions. I'm sorry, guys, if the audio was really quiet. Hopefully it's fixed up now. Okay. Keep going down. Okay. First time live stream viewer, RY666. You said really enjoying the videos. Curious about my opinion on Johnson Control Metasys if you've ran into it before. Are you talking about the control system? I don't do any controls work, or are you talking about working for JCI? I don't do any controls work, so I honestly haven't worked much with it, if that's what you're asking. And as far as I'm assuming that's what you're asking. So, okay. Yeah, Alan, you said the Hoshizaki brushes are awesome. I'm just working my way down through the questions here, guys, so in the chat and stuff. Okay, I see what you're saying. RY666. Yeah, I don't do much controls work, so I apologize. I don't have much Johnson control stuff there. Okay. Paul Nye, you ask a great question. Why does the sanitizer foam up so bad? Yes, that is the true question. It's very important to understand, and that's something I should have covered already, guys. Like I did in my video, whenever you clean an ice machine and you are going to be done with it, you need to use a proper sanitizing liquid. Okay, New Calgon makes it. I think it's called IMS sanitizer, IMS2. And it is important to understand it is going to foam like a madman. Usually I use a little bit less than what it says to use, but I can't really tell you guys to do that because you need to follow the manufacturer's instructions. So do your thing there. But yeah, that stuff you never want. If you try to use sanitizer in an ice machine and you're still trying to save the ice below it, it's pretty much going to be ruined because that sanitizer is just going to foam over and fill up the whole ice machine bin with ice or with foam. It just drives me nuts. So, okay. Okay, Comp GB, you said ever cleaned one with lime away? No, I haven't. I'd be very leery about using lime away because I don't know if it's food safe. So you want to make sure that you're only cleaning ice machines with a food safe cleaner. So I don't know whether or not lime away is or is not food safe. So I would not suggest using it unless you know for sure that it's food safe. Okay, be cautious about that. Lime away, I know lime away isn't nickel safe. I don't know though. You can look at the MSDS. If you guys want to know what's in the ice machine cleaners, just pull up the MSDS sheet and it's going to tell you. It won't tell you the exact mixtures, but I highly doubt Lime Away is pure. I mean, I guess it could be. I'm sure it's going to have the same kind of stuff in it. But okay. Hey Tersh, how you doing, man? All right. Yeah, I'm sorry guys. I'm just reading this comment right now where it says you guys were having a hard time hearing. I'm coming down here. I thought this. Brian, no, this isn't a podcast. This is a video thing. So I'll be doing a podcast where it's just audio. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be any good or not. We'll see how it works. So, okay. Okay. So Matt D, if I need replacement tubing for an ice machine, do I go through the manufacturer? And yes, I do. I will get the ice machine tubes from Hoshizaki or Manitowoc, whoever it is. The reason why I'll do that is because their tube, again, it's probably just a sales thing for me, but just to be safe, I'd rather use things that are set up for food environments. Okay, I'd hate to go buy a tubing from Hoshizaki and from Home Depot. And first off, if you're working on a Hoshizaki ice machine, if you don't already know, their tubings are their tube is metric. Okay, almost everything on a Hoshizaki ice machine is metric. So, but the tubing is basically measured in millimeters as far as the diameter and different things. So it's typically not going to match up to like a 3/4 inch hose from Home Depot. You'll have to do some weird things with pipe clamps and different things that I'd rather not do. I just like to stick with OEM stuff. But on the flip side too, I'm concerned about food safe. Okay, I want to buy that tubing or whatever it is from the manufacturer because I don't want any liability to find out that I don't know. I don't know what's in, the tube that you buy from Home Depot. I don't know if it's, who knows what's on it. So, you just buy the stuff from the manufacturer because then you're safe. Cover your ass, basically. So, okay. Keep going down. Best cleaner for greased up condensers in the kitchen? Rookie Refrigeration asked that. You know that the Hvacr aerosol cleaner, the little cans of Viper, I don't know what the name, I think it's just Viper aerosol foaming condenser coil cleaner. That stuff works pretty good. I like that. I really shouldn't be telling you what brands. I should be asking these manufacturers to hook me up with something instead of, but I mean, I'm being honest with you guys. I like the Viper stuff. It's good stuff. Almost everything refrigeration technologies is I really appreciate the quality that they put into their chemicals. But I mean, I have used other chemicals too, like the new Calgon, New Bright. I've used that. I've used the new Calgon makes a New Bright foaming spray. I've used that. They all kind of work the same to me. But the Viper stuff has been working really good lately, though, and I find that the residue that it leaves and different things aren't the same as like the new Calgon stuff. I don't know if that makes any sense or if that's just me, but I've been appreciating the refrigeration technology stuff a lot lately. So, Robbie G, you said you like the new Calgon Blackhawk condenser coil cleaner in a can. I've used that, but the problem is the smell. The smell on that stuff is so toxic. It just kind of gets me. Almost smells like carburetor cleaner or something when it comes out the can. Okay. Okay, so Mike2959 says there's a big difference between a bubbling sight glass and a low flow rate sight glass. Okay, if bubbles are in the liquid, this is an undercharge of refrigerant causing vapor and liquid to X. Yes, okay. It's, one of the things he kind of brings up a good point, and it's very important to understand it, when you're in a refrigeration or when you're working on a refrigeration system, using a sight glass, it's also very easy to confuse an empty sight glass with a full sight glass. That's a very hard thing to do. Usually you just got to be able to look, and I can't even explain to you what it is, but a completely full sight glass versus a completely empty sight glass, they can look very similar. But there's little things inside of them. Usually if you look in the top of the sight glass, you can see tiny, tiny air bubbles. You can usually see through the glass. If you get used to it, you can tell when there's actually liquid versus just nothing. Okay, so you do want to be cautious about that. Okay, keep going down here. Total Text says liquid seal needed in the receiver. That is correct. I didn't want to go too crazy technical on the receiver systems or headmaster stuff, but if you understand how a receiver works, okay, basically a receiver at any point in time is going to have a liquid and a vapor mixture inside of it. okay, because it's a storage tank, okay? So when the refrigerant, even if it's liquid coming in, there's still going to be vapor at the top of the tank. So what they'll do is they usually have a dip tube, not the same kind of a dip tube as an accumulator is going to have, but it's kind of the same theory, okay? They're going to have a dip tube that'll pull off the bottom of the receiver, okay? And it's always important that the liquid level in the system or inside that receiver is always above the bottom of that dip tube, okay? What's interesting, I've never seen it before, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent right now, but I've read some interesting stories about how to diagnose a receiver that has a broken dip tube. I thought that was really interesting. And you know who has written about it a lot, is very active on Facebook, is Jeremy Smith. Jeremy Smith is very active in the HVAC school Facebook group. I really don't know him, but I just conversed with him a little bit here and there. He's a very smart market guy. He's talked quite a bit about finding a broken dip tube and the symptoms of it, which I thought was very interesting, because that does sound like a very interesting headache of a service call. Once you've seen it, you probably know what to look for, but yeah, that'd be an interesting one, to have a broken dip tube on a receiver. Essentially, you'd never be able to clear the sight glass. So, or you keep adding refrigerant and you're like, okay, wait a minute, I know that this system didn't need 40 pounds of refrigerant. What's going on? You know, so that'd be an interesting one to come across. But like I said, I've never seen that before. So, okay, gonna keep going down in here, seeing what you guys are saying. Okay, Mario Vale, you said weighing in the charge is good. Okay, so weighing in the charge is good if you know how much the charge the system takes. But on a refrigeration system or a built-up air conditioning system, okay, a built-up air conditioning system is one that's been designed by someone other than the manufacturer. A lot of times an engineer will come in and size a receiver, a condenser, that kind of stuff, okay? We don't oftentimes know exactly how much refrigerant the system's going to take. There is some formulas that you can use to calculate it, but a lot of times in the field, it's not very easy for us to calculate a charge in the field. So that's where the use of a sight glass would really come in handy, because we can basically add refrigerant or add, you know, how much we think it takes, and then adjust the charge from there by simply clearing the sight glass. So, okay. Keep going down here. Keep going down here, seeing what I'm missing. Okay. Okay, so the Indie Iceman, you asked me, why does Manitowoc use a fan cycle control and others do not? It just depends on the manufacturer, okay? Because I know that there's other people that do. Like, I know that Isomatic uses a fan cycle control. Manitowoc uses them. Essentially, by using a fan cycle control, most of the time, if it's a remote ice machine, they're going to have a headmaster and a fan cycle control. So they're going to, it essentially is going to make that ice machine be able to operate at much lower temperatures by using a fan cycle and a headmaster or a head pressure control valve. So keep going down here. Frank Evans, you're asking, how should you approach this interview you have when the company has all 1-star reviews? You know, Frank, that's a really interesting thing. Okay, so as an employer, I don't really see it this way, but as a normal person, I think that you need to do your due diligence and interview the company just as much as the company is going to interview you. I think that's a very important thing, because I think that you know, it's going to hurt you as a new technician coming in. You don't want to bounce around at a million different places, because that doesn't look good on you. Okay, so let's say you go to a company, you're just going to try it out, and you work there for 2 weeks, and then you put them on your resume. And then you go to another company, and you work there for 2 years, and then a year later you go to another company, and you keep on doing that. When a resume like that comes across my desk, I start thinking, why is this guy bouncing around? Okay, so I think that you're asking a valid question. If the company has a bunch of bad reviews, then that's something you need to worry about. Okay, now, it's also important to understand that, you know, you need to, where are these reviews at? Is it just on one review site? Out of how many, you know, if it has 1 star, out of how many reviews? Is it out of 5 reviews? Because just like when I'm looking at like Yelp or anything like that for like food or whatever, like you take that into context. Just because a place has 5 stars, but it only has 200 reviews versus a place that has 4 stars that has 6,000 reviews. So you want to look at that too. But you don't want to just look at reviews. I mean, you got to trust your gut, and you need to go into that interview and sit down. And don't be cocky, but be polite and kind and ask them questions. Hey, you know, I'm really curious. Why do you guys have so many bad reviews? I mean, ask them, because they're going to ask you the same questions. They're going to say, hey, how come you worked at 5 different places? Well, you ask them the same questions, but don't be cocky. Do not be cocky, and don't be condescending. Just in casual conversation, in a very polite way, ask them. Okay. That's a very interesting topic you bring up. Okay. So I think it's very important for you to interview the company just as much as they're going to interview you. All right, let's keep going here. Keep going, keep going. What am I missing here? Bill Burnett, you set up in Canada. Yeah, that's why most manufacturers do that. They put a fan cycle control and a headmaster, because they're trying to make it operate much better at lower temperatures, essentially. Okay, I've given my opinions on fan cycle controls. I'm not a huge fan of fan cycle controls because in my opinion, they're very rough on the system. You can usually, so if a system is operating only with a fan cycle control, it's very violent, and it's just kind of hard on the system. I prefer, if you have a choice between one or the other, I honestly prefer a head pressure control valve, but I do understand the need on an ice machine. And the reason why they put a fan cycle control and a headmaster on an ice machine, or head pressure control valve, is, to basically, to be able to make it operate at lower temps, right? But at the same time, on ice machines, we typically use hot gas defrost, okay? So we need that gas coming out the discharge of the compressor to be hot, okay? So if we don't have a fan cycle control to drive up that head pressure, then that's going to, basically reduce the temperature of that discharge gas, and that's going to be a problem. So that is a very important thing to understand is that's why we have a headmaster and a fan cycle control on an ice machine for the most part, is because they're using hot gas or some sort of cool vapor or something, and we need to maintain a certain temperature on that. On top of that, we need to obviously still maintain a clear solid column of liquid going to that expansion valve at all times too. So, okay, keep on going down here. See what else I'm missing here. Oh, my good friend, they are nice. You said, how often do you find out that ran for years when it's missing parts? Okay, I don't know the context of your question, but I am going to point out something out. I haven't released a video yet. I don't know if I am going to make... Yeah, we'll see. I think I got a video that I'm working on about a duct detector. It's funny how I get like these waves of service calls. Lately, I must have worked on 5 different duct detectors, and it's like, so then I make a video, and then all of a sudden I'll work on a bunch of ice machines. It's kind of funny how that works. But something that I'm noticing, this is a problem out here in Southern California. I don't know if you guys are finding this across the US or up in Canada or wherever you're at. I'm finding that duct detectors installed on air conditioning systems, it's not all of them, but I found quite a few, enough to make me concerned, that have never been installed correctly. And when I say, I go out there to change a duct detector, and then I go to test a function on the detector, and then I find out that it doesn't work. And then, when you look into it, you realize, it's never been wired correctly. And these are restaurants that only I have ever worked on. So they were basically, from installation, the duct detectors hadn't been installed correctly. So for instance, let's say I've got, this was a restaurant I went to recently where we have 2 duct detectors, one in the supply and one in the return, on one particular air conditioning unit. And the complaint was they had no air conditioning to the building, or no heating actually. So I went out there and found that the Linux package unit was off on a smoke detector error message. So I reset that and went downstairs and found a duct detector that was tripped. So I went to go reset the duct detector and it wouldn't reset. So then I came back out, I bypassed it temporarily, came back out with a new detector, and then I changed the other one too, because I wasn't just going to change the supply detector without changing the return. They're both just the same age, so I changed them both. Well, when I finished on the one that was bad, I went to go wire in the other one, and I found out that it was never wired correctly, the other duct detector, and it would never signal the alarm company. And it's like, I found that many times, where there was another restaurant of this same particular chain where I found they have 3 RTU units on the roof, and none of them had ever been wired correctly. And the restaurant had been open for like 6 years. It's very interesting, and where that's concerning is that if I understand things correctly, in my area, the fire marshal goes out there, is supposed to go out there like once or twice a year and test the fire system. So how has he been testing the fire system if the duct detectors don't work? That's kind of scary, don't you think? It's very interesting to see, and same thing goes for the ice machine that I just made a video on, where the drain was messed up. That ice machine was 5 years old, and the drains were never piped right from the beginning. And it's like, wow, it just blows my mind that much incompetence is out there when it comes to construction. It also shows you how much they're cutting corners. And, in my opinion, what it is like, for instance, when I've been part of construction, I usually don't do much construction in my business, but I have done it here and there. And when I do construction, what I find is that in my instances, not every time, but the general contractor is handling more work than he should be handling. For instance, he has his just general labor guys that work for him installing the ice machines. Well, you need to have the HVAC guy install the ice machine. Point is that drain line that was messed up, on the ice machine where I just did a video on. In my opinion, that was probably because the general contractor installed that, and didn't have, or they had, some plumber that didn't know what he was doing install it. Okay. They obviously didn't have a competent person because they couldn't look at the picture on the back of the ice machine. Same thing goes for the duct detectors. Like, I think, and I've even seen like general contractors calling me to start up refrigeration systems. Right. And I'll go out there and they're setting their own air conditioners, and they're having, and it's like, why are you guys setting the air conditioner? Like, the HVAC guy should be doing that stuff because he knows what to look for. When that unit's coming down, being hoisted down from the crane, and you're looking up at the bottom of the unit and you see that, the heat exchanger's cracked, it's like we would find, or broken or whatever, like we would see that stuff. So like that frustrates me that at least in the States or in California, that we don't require, electricians to do the electrician's jobs, plumbers to do the plumber's job, that kind of stuff, HVAC guys to do their job. So it's interesting. Okay. Gonna go up here and see what else I missed here. Andrew Hicks, you said, what makes a headmaster dangerous? I'm assuming that's to Jonah. You asked me if I've tested the solder weld product line. I'm going to be honest with you. I have a bunch of their products that were sent to me, and I really haven't been doing much brazing. Haven't done much yet. I have used their round rod 15%. It's very different and unique, and it works very well. But I have not tested any of their aluminum repair stuff. But I have heard nothing but good stuff about the solder weld stuff. I was sent an entire package of all their different products that they offer, and it all looks really great. I just have not been able to use the aluminum repair stuff at this moment yet. So keep going back up. I'm going up here trying to figure out. Okay, prime time. You said headmasters are dangerous and can harm the compressor. I don't know if I quite agree with that. I can definitely say that. Let me finish reading your comment here. So, okay, I can definitely understand where you might be going with that, prime time. If a headmaster is starting to fail or anything like that, then yes, it can be catastrophic to the system. Okay, if a headmaster gets stuck, it can be catastrophic to the system. I'll agree with you on that. I don't know that they're bad for the system. I think that they're much better than a fan cycle control, but that's just my personal opinion. I'm not knocking you for what you said. I mean, that's your opinion. But I will say that headmasters, and I was recently in doing a spoiling class with a spoiling rep for RSCS here. And I made a comment, and I said, I'm going to pretty much say, and this kind of goes for expansion valves too, that for the most part, expansion valves don't fail. The Sporlan expansion valves, it's typically not the valve that fails, okay? Same thing goes with a head pressure control valve, an LAC valve from Sporlan. It's typically not the valve that fails, okay? What typically happens, in my opinion, on a head pressure control valve is people don't install things properly. They don't use proper refrigeration practices. There's stuff floating around in the system. It gets stuck in the headmaster and allows the headmaster not to shut, which causes an issue. Okay, that's my opinion. Same thing goes for expansion valves. Most of the time, I can't unless the expansion valve is completely contaminated, but that's not really the expansion valve's problem. The springs in the expansion valves, they usually don't fail. The seat in the expansion valve usually doesn't fail. Now, what causes an expansion valve, in my opinion, to fail is like a power head that goes bad. The power head is the element that opens or is part of the opening and closing of the valve. That's one of the components, but we're not doing an expansion valve thing right now. But the power heads can fail because people install them incorrectly. They let the capillary tube rub up against stuff, or they'll rust out on the top because of the expansion valve not being insulated because of the situation that it's in. But for them, or an expansion valve can fail because it gets stuck in one position, open or closed, because someone may not have brazed it on correctly. They may not have used like a wet towel around it, or a heat putty or something when they were brazing it in, and they overheated the expansion valve and caused the parts inside of it to warp. So I don't know if I quite agree that a headmaster can harm a compressor, but I can say that a system that has a headmaster is more apt to have a damaged compressor if the headmaster fails, for sure. I agree with you on that one. So, okay, let's go down here. See what else I'm missing here. Let me know if you guys have any more questions, because I'm kind of down here to the bottom. So if there's anything that's coming up, throw it in there. Okay. Hey, Ulysses, I see that you're in here, man. Ulysses, you had said something in one of the message forms or something that you noticed that Sporlan is they're installing, or I'm assuming this was you, I think, that said that you noticed that Headmaster's bypass pressures are getting lower and lower. And that's actually a question I raised to Heatcraft, because I was installing a Heatcraft refrigeration system, and I noticed that they had a Headmaster on there at like really low bypass pressure for 404A, like in the hundreds, like low hundreds. And I was kind of like taken back. And what's interesting is and I've read some of the bigger refrigeration guys answer these questions, like Jeremy or Kevin Compass or different people in the Facebook forums answer this. And basically what they're saying is that they're realizing that, and this isn't my words, this is just reading what other people are writing, is that they're realizing that you can float the head pressure a lot lower and still have the capacity. Now, I don't have any substantial evidence to back that up other than I've read other people say that. But I have noticed a trend of headmasters being installed with lower and lower bypass pressures. And especially I noticed that on the Heatcraft condensing units. Now, another thing that I kind of want to point out is that most of them that I see, the smaller bypass pressures, have scroll compressors. So I'm sure that has something to do with it. And then yeah, I guess that's it. But that's just something interesting is I'm starting to notice that the Headmaster's bypass pressures are a lot lower. Because for a while, I was seeing like all the way up to like 210 PSI for a 404 Headmaster. But now it's kind of like alarmingly low. So that's interesting. Okay, let's keep going down here. See what else I'm missing here. Okay, so Dalton Fisher, you asked, why do people cut the pigtail on a Headmaster? And Gary Black kind of answered, to bypass the Headmaster. Okay, so let me go into depth a little bit more on that. So the Headmaster has a dome charge in it. Kind of works similar to an expansion valve. Okay, so the dome charge, let's just say we have 180 PSI bypass pressure in my Headmaster. So in the dome of that Headmaster, I have 180 PSI of pressure pushing down on the stem, or I guess I should come up with the right term, but the stem inside, or the push rod inside that Headmaster, okay? And a lot of people think that, and it usually doesn't work, to be honest with you, but a lot of people that don't understand how a Headmaster works, or if you maybe have a stuck Headmaster that's bypassing, what people have done is they will clip the tip, release the pressure in the top of the Headmaster, and then try to hit the Headmaster with like a mallet or something to try to free up that stuck seat that's inside the Headmaster that's causing it to bypass all the time. So it's important to understand, though, once you cut the tip on a Headmaster, it's done. You can never fix it again, okay? And also another really important thing to understand on a Headmaster or head pressure control valve is that it's very common for the seal inside of, or the bellows inside of that power head to leak, okay? So oftentimes you can get refrigerant that can go through and leak out if you clip that tip. Okay, if the headmaster is working correctly, you can go and clip the tip on it or the top of the power head or the dome charge, and it'll just leak out the pressure in the dome. But if it's an older headmaster or if it's damaged, it can internally be leaking refrigerant. So if you clip the tip on it, you can actually cause a refrigerant leak and end up losing the refrigeration charge inside the system too. So you always want to be cautious. Most of the time, I'm going to be honest with you, people clip the tip on a headmaster because they don't understand, in my opinion, how they work, and they kind of get scared and cut them. So I don't know that. Yeah, I will say that, you know, yeah. So that's it on that. I'm gonna stop on that one. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, I really appreciate it if you guys hit the like button, help my my video out here, right here, help the numbers. I'd really appreciate that if you guys would. We're looking pretty good right now. I see 43 likes and 101 people watching. That's really cool. I'd like to see it go up a little bit, but you know, I really appreciate you guys coming in. I can't believe that you guys come in here and listen to me babble. Okay, let me keep going down here and see if there's anything else I'm missing. Any more questions, guys? Throw them in here because I'm probably going to end this if you guys don't have any more questions. So, let me see. Lex Marks 567. You asked, "What's my opinion on R600 refrigerant?" I'm not worried about R600 refrigerant. Okay, I don't know if you're asking me that because it's flammable. I don't, you know. Refrigerant's refrigerant to me. If you understand the pressure-temperature relationship between a refrigerant, they're all the same. Just one of them's flammable, one of them's not, okay? There's no getting away from working on the flammable refrigerants these days, especially in refrigeration. If you work on the smaller stuff like I do, I work with R290 well, I don't work with it on a daily basis, but I work around it on a daily basis, okay? And I've done a few R290 repairs. It's just another refrigerant, just some more safety things you need to follow, okay, such as purging the system before you braze anything, cutting the components out as much as possible, that kind of stuff, okay? But do I feel any different about R600 versus R290 versus R22? Other than the flammability, it's just another refrigerant. So it's nothing I'd be too worried about. Yeah, it's new things we got to do. It's more procedures. Now, where I'm worried about the flammable refrigerants is not so much about myself, but it's about other people working with flammable refrigerants that don't necessarily follow proper refrigeration practices. And that's where I think it's a recipe for disaster. I'm afraid that someone is going to try to, you know, unsweat a compressor without knowing that there's still R290 vapor in there, without purging the system, and they're going to get a surprise. So that's the stuff that I'm concerned about, is just the people that don't follow the proper refrigeration practices. Okay. Andrew Hicks, you said, "How good is the Manitowoc factory training course?" I wish I could tell you. I've never been to the Wisconsin training course. I will say they don't do it anymore, but in the past, they offered a regional factory training course. I took it probably, good God, 10 years ago. It was a regional factory training class up in Antelope Valley College up in Lancaster, California, which is out in the middle of nowhere out in the desert. But they did like a 2-day or 3-day training class, if I remember right. It was much more in depth than a, you know, just one of the service seminars that you go to that's like 4 hours. They had ice machines rigged up with toggle switches in them that all simulated different problems. And basically, we had 2 days solid of diagnosing. That was a great class, okay? Definitely worth it. They stopped doing it in my area because the attendance was too low. If I have always wanted to go to the Manitowoc factory training class, the same thing with the Hoshizaki training class in Georgia, always wanted to go. So if you get the opportunity, I suggest you jump on it and take it, because I think you're definitely going to learn something from those. So, okay, keep on going down here. Andrew Hicks, you said you told Brian Milburn to go to Sporlin's website. If you guys don't already know, go to sporlinonline.com, I think is what it is. And they've got great information on their website. All their Sporlin documents and everything. So great, great stuff. Okay, let's keep on going down here. Okay, so good night, guys. Thanks for coming in. Those of you that are leaving right now. Okay, so I see someone said something about MO99. Make sure you use POE with minute. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I'm not a huge alternative refrigerant fan. So right now, we'll see what happens this summer, but As of last summer, I still had my customers convinced to use R22 refrigerant instead of a alternative. We'll see if I can keep that going this summer because I'd rather not use any of the blends, MO99, 427A, all those 407C, just personal preference, okay? I'd rather the customer consider replacement, but I get it. I'm a service contractor, so my customers don't want to replace anything. A lot of times they just want to fix it. I have a hard time with the manufacturers of those alternative refrigerants because I think they put a lot of uncertainty out there on the market and don't explain 100% the way that their refrigerants work. I'm going to go out there on a limb and say, honestly, any of them that say their refrigerants work with mineral oil are talking out of their butt. They don't work with refrigerant oil or with mineral oil. They say it works fine, but then if you read the fine print, it says as long as you don't have a line set length more than this, or you don't have risers higher than this, or you don't have excessive pressure drop higher than this, and all these different caveats that you have to follow. So basically, it only works with polyester oil. Okay. Now, I have nothing wrong with converting a refrigerant, changing the oil, that kind of stuff over to polyester oil and then using those refrigerants. Sure, I'm good with that. You're still going to lose capacity. So, but, that's a whole nother topic we can talk about. All right, keep going down here, see what else. Yeah, prime time, I'm still using R22, dude. Now, granted, up until last summer, I haven't used a lot lately, but, we try to get people to change their systems over. If I come across a refrigeration system with R22, of course I'm going to talk to them, trying to talk them into converting the system over to 404. But typically I'm not going to drop in a blended gas, and get rid of the 22 and just put in, 407C or whatever. I'm not going to do that. At the same time, I'm not going to say I'm never going to do that stuff. If a customer really, really wants me to do that, then of course I'll work with them. But they're gonna understand the dangers to it. They're gonna understand that those particular gases don't work with this system because, we have high pressure drops. We have, da 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 da. So I'm going to make sure that they understand and have a full disclaimer of what might happen if we use that refrigerant versus changing the system over to 404 or putting 22 back in or whatever. So keep going down. Keep going. See what else. I think we're pretty much wrapping it up, guys. Okay, so Gary Black Jr., your supervisor wants to put R134A in an R290 system. If you repaired it by blowing out the old oil with nitrogen, then charging with one, I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole, Gary Black Jr. I get you got to do what you got to do. If your supervisor wants you to do it, then, as long as he understands that 134A is not the same as R290. Yeah, they might be similar at certain pressure temperature situations, but they're not the exact same refrigerants. The compression ratio of the compressor might not be correct for 134. The expansion valve's capacity isn't sized necessarily for 134. Those kind of things. So I wouldn't touch that one with a 10-foot pole. So, okay. Total Tech, you asked if I work on Taylor machines. No, I do not. I have never worked on a Taylor ice cream machine. Never really gotten into those. I just do the basic little refrigeration stuff you see me doing. So, okay. I think that's going to be it, guys. Unless you guys got any more questions, I'm going to wrap this up. I'll give you guys another minute or two to put anything in. I see Robbie G, you said you have a 448 freezer that would run super low suction pressure. Suction line would get so cold it froze. Suction line cush clamps and would drip water from the trapeze. Couldn't find insulation clamp. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't worked with 448, but I know it's just another refrigerant. I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, I don't know that particular situation, what was going on there. Yeah, I did. HVACR trucker, you said you were talking to Rodney Rodriguez and you said oh wait, no, that's your name. Duh. You said, did I hear about the refrigerator blowing up over there in Florida? Yeah, I did. I'd really like to know what exactly happened with that because even the news was spreading doubt, saying like, I don't know if it was just a blown up refrigerator. So, yeah, I've heard ice cream machines suck and that they're nasty. So, okay, so I've heard of that prime time where a filter dryer fails internally. I've heard of that. Wait, so you're saying it was a Sporlan 163 that broke apart? Or was it one of those copper spun dryers that broke apart? Primetime. Dad's Cavaliers, you asked what I think about a beacon system. I've never worked on a full-fledged beacon system. I have worked on the Heatcraft quick response controller, which is a beacon circuit board. It's basically a stripped-down beacon system. I'm not a fan of it. It's not that big of a deal. I like the concept of it, but I'm just not a fan of the beacon system because I don't think that we're ready for that stuff. Even though I know that, yeah, I just think we're so behind on our refrigeration technology right now, at least here in the States, that we don't have the workforce to work on those circuit board controlled electronic expansion valve systems. We just don't have the workforce to do it. So we have a lot of doubt, and we have a lot of people that bypass things and try to hack things. I worry about that stuff. Now, at the same time, I understand the flip side. I shouldn't have to worry about that, and it's technology, and we just get used to it. I get it, but I just worry that we don't have the workforce and the people that do things. It's hard enough to get a guy to install a filter in the right direction, and not my guys, I'm saying, but just people in general. Like, I see companies doing the weirdest stuff, and it's like, wow, how could they work on these complex systems? They just can't. So that's what worries me. Okay. Mark Fredrickson, you said you're new in the trade, newer to my channel. You noticed that we work in the same area and was just wondering who I work for. So, yes, Mark, I am a refrigeration contractor in Southern California. So I work, all over Southern California. I work for my own company, my own refrigeration company. I'd rather not list the name of it on the live stream. But yeah, we work in the Inland Empire all around. I'd just rather not draw any unwanted attention to my company. So I know that you guys probably know who I work for. I just rather not put it in a public forum. So I should say what my company's name is and stuff. I mean, it is in videos. It has slipped before, but I just rather not share that information. Another thing that I'll cover too, real quick while I'm thinking about this, the last couple videos, there's been a lot of comments. In the beginning of this live stream, I said that YouTube changed their algorithm, and I've been getting a lot of people that are not HVAC related watching my videos, which is interesting. I don't mind it. And like I said in the beginning, because my videos, they are not DIY videos. They're missing a lot of information, okay? It doesn't tell you how from point A to point B how to fix a system. I usually show the problem, a few cool things while I'm diagnosing, and then usually the end result. And I purposely do that. I know that I'm missing out on, how hard I turn this wrench and, what I set my pressures out on my nitrogen or whatever. But I purposely do that because I do not ever want my videos to be a DIY resource. I want them to be for the person that already knows what they're doing or has some knowledge in the trade and just wants some cool tips or different things. That's what my videos are about. So I've been getting a lot of questions of how come I don't show my work in my videos? Well, because number one, if you guys know anything about YouTube, my videos are already long enough, and I can see that my magic number on my videos is 7 minutes. Okay, so I can see that I made a 20-minute ice machine video, and the average of the however many 15,000 people that watched that ice machine video the last time I looked, they only watched it for 7 minutes. Okay, so why waste the time? And that hurts my channel when I make a video that long and people don't watch it. My viewer retention matters. So number one, I see that people don't watch that long, so I try to trim my videos down. The other thing, like I already mentioned, is I don't want to show people how to do every single step. And then I've also people have asked me like how much I charge my customers, how much every single job costs. I typically try to keep that information out of the videos because we don't need to share the pricing and different stuff. I don't need to bring any more attention to my company than I need to. I don't mind sharing, like people have asked me like how long it takes to do a job. I have no problem talking about that. I'll tell you, I think I told someone that ice machine probably took us 16 to 18 hours of build labor time on that ice machine. That was to do drains, remove the sealing, clean the ice machines, and then diagnose. So I don't mind doing that, but I typically don't want to share my company name if at all possible, and I won't ever share the restaurant locations. People try to guess that in the chat, and I know that some of you guys that work in the restaurants and you guys know some of the locations that I'm working at. I appreciate you guys keep that to yourself. I'm not going to acknowledge where the location's at, just again to protect my customer. So, okay, keep going. Andrew Hicks, you said, was it a meth lab in the fridge? I wonder, dude. DJ Subair, you said, what was the story? Just somewhere in Florida, there was something on the news that a refrigerator blew up, and then there was pictures, and like there was shrapnel all over the kitchen, and the refrigerator exploded just while it was sitting in place. This was a domestic home refrigerator. And I don't know too much more about it other than I saw the pictures, and just the thing exploded. So I don't know if it was a refrigerant leak. I mean, it could have been anything, you know. It could have been a refrigerant leak in the evaporator section and the light bulb turned on. Who knows, you know. So I guarantee it was probably a flammable refrigerant, though, for sure. So someone asked, what's the best recovery machine? Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now that currently I and all of my trucks have the Appion G5 Twin, whatever it is, the big Appion recovery machine. That's the one that I've used, but I'm going to tell you the next recovery machine I'm going to buy is going to be the Field Piece recovery machine. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I just haven't had the opportunity or been able to justify the purchase of one yet. But when I need a recovery machine, I'm definitely gonna try out that Field Piece one. So same thing goes with the Field Piece vacuum pump too. Next opportunity I get to buy a vacuum pump, I'm gonna buy that Field Piece one. So, Joel Monegro, you said, "Hey man, how's it going? You're from New York, right on, dude." Okay, keep going down here. Have I worked on any Cascade refrigeration systems? No, I've worked on like a Cascade hybrid system, nothing fancy, that basically had different refrigerants. It was kind of like a multi-stage system that didn't have different refrigerants mixed inside there, and the temperatures of the refrigerants at which they would boil off was different. It's kind of confusing, but I've worked on those, but I've never had to charge them, just electrical work on them and stuff. Never had to open up a system that had one of those weird hybrid refrigerant mixtures in it or anything like that. But I would consider that like a hybrid Cascade. The full Cascade systems are where you have one condensing unit essentially cooling another condensing unit, which is cooling a medium, a space, or whatever. But no, I've never worked on that. Okay. Keep going down here, seeing what else. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come out and check these videos out, you know, and you guys keep sending me comments and questions, and I'll keep doing these. So if you guys don't already know, for the new guys that are in here, Andrew Hicks, you said you want to try the battery-powered Hvacr pump. Yes, I'm going to buy that pump myself just because I want to try it. It looks really cool. Andrew did a good job of promoting that thing. I've had a conversation with the rep for Hvacr, and he was telling me some other cool information about it. So once it's released, I'm going to pick one of those pumps up, and I'm going to purchase it, and I'll test it and do a little review. It's totally worth the review on that thing. So, okay. Keep going down here. Yeah, Robbie G, that was my thought too, was a leaking evaporator. So, on that explosion. What's the price on the Hvacr? That's a good question. It's not released yet. I know it won't be released for another month or two. I don't know. I don't think I really can't tell you. I for some reason I'm sticking off the top of my head. I'm thinking like $400 or $500, but I don't know if that's the truth. So, yeah, Robbie G, scientific freezers are weird. I used to do hospital work for a hospital, and we did a lot of weird refrigerators, a lot of thermoscientific, Jewett, you know, and then they started bringing all these Korean brands in there. I can't even think of the name of them anymore. They brought in a bunch of Korean off brands. You know, the weird thing about scientific refrigerators, if you do the hospital ones, a lot of times they're just rebranded commercial refrigerators. So for instance, you'll walk up to a hospital freezer and it'll have some, you know, medical name on it, right? But then you're looking at it going, this is just a true freezer. And then you can tell that it's a true freezer, you know, just rebranded. It'll have like a digital temp control on it, and then you'll pull it out and it'll have the serial number sticker on the back. That's one of the weird things I always saw about scientific refrigerators. Kind of blew my mind. You know, and same thing. I found them that like, oh yeah, this is a you know, whatever beverage air refrigerator, but it's just rebranded with some fancy medical name, you know, and it's like, God, I wonder how much they had to pay for that thing just to have a rebranded refrigerator from True that someone threw a Dixel controller on there and that's it. And then they charged them, you know, $10 million for it or whatever. Very interesting. Okay, keep going down here. Oh, that's a bummer, Militech. All your tools got stolen? Dude, I had that. Is it prime time? Is it 700 for the little tiny vacuum pump? Militech, man, that's a bummer, dude. Yeah, I had my tools stolen a couple years back. Not to one up you, but it's just no good, dude. I'm sorry about that, man. Okay. Okay, so Nathan 6:30 p.m. says, does constant power outages end up eventually damaging refrigeration equipment? Because the power goes out at least twice a month where you work. Power outages can be bad for equipment, yeah. But depending on the situation, they can have power conditioning. So basically, devices that monitor the power. Power conditioning devices can help to reduce problems due to power outages. So, for instance, out here in Southern California during the summertime, we have brownouts where we'll get really low voltage, and then when they finally terminate power, then they turn it back on, we'll get voltage spikes or voltage surges, and it causes all kinds of problems. So we're the prime candidate for power conditioning out here, basically devices that monitor our power, and whenever the voltage gets too low or too high, it shuts it off before it becomes a problem. So I think that we're going to need more and more of that. Yeah, Marvell Scientific, yeah, that was one of them. And then there's some weird Korean ones too, but it's funny because it's been about 2 years since I've done any work for that particular hospital that I used to do work for. And I was going through my van recently, and I still have a bunch of books from Thermo Fisher Scientific, like manuals for their freezers and coolers. Those manuals were expensive too. I think one of them I paid like $200 for the manual or something like that. And I still got them sitting in my van. Okay, keep going down here. Oh yeah, I want to get those. Robbie G, you said the 3/4 inch blue, true blue hoses. Yeah, I want those. I want those bad. I've been wanting. I just haven't justified the purchase yet. But if I need to buy vacuum hoses too, I'm gonna buy the true blue ones next. So those are definitely. Troy Dimmers, you said thoughts on Field Piece Job Link. Field Piece, man. I'm gonna full disclaimer here. I work with Field Piece. I can only say so much, but in the past I've worked with Field Piece. I can say that, and I've done like testing for tools that they have released in the past. I love Field Piece stuff. Okay, Field Piece really takes care of their people, their technicians and different things. They are definitely innovating a lot more lately than they have been in the last, in the past. There is definitely lots of cool new tech coming out from Field Piece. I definitely suggest considering the JobLink system. Very, very much worth it. I use the JobLink probes myself. I was not given those by anybody. I paid for them. They are great. I love the JobLink probes. The JobLink probes will work with Measure Quick too, which is Jim Bergman's software for air conditioning systems. That's a great software. Really helps you to understand the air conditioning system a little bit better. And my understanding is that they are working on updating different profiles and different things for Measure Quick. I know they just released some heating stuff, and then I believe that some refrigeration stuff is on the back burner and going to be coming out soon too with Measure Quick. So definitely like Field Piece JobLink system. Think it's great. Yeah, just keep an eye out on Field Piece. Just keep an eye out on Field Piece. All right, let's see what else is going on here. Hey, AK, what's up, bud? Some guys were asking questions about the Navic vacuum pump and stuff. So, all right, let's see what's going on here. AK, what is the Navic, the little battery powered Navic pump, going to cost? That's what the question that people were asking. For some reason, I was thinking like 400 or 500. Is that correct, or is it going to be more? Do you know? Okay, let's go through here and see what else we got. Ah, that's a bummer. Prime time. Yeah, my situation again. I'm not trying to be like AK's video where he did the one upper tech, but I had a situation where my van was broken into probably 6-7 years ago, and they cleaned it out, dude. It was $10,000 in tools between myself and the company. Well, it's all between me, but just the way we did everything. Yeah, it was $10,000 in tools. And bummer for me was we realized that we didn't have marine coverage on our vehicles, so the tools weren't covered. So we had full coverage on our vehicles, but as far as the contents of the vehicles, basically our policy didn't have a rider that said it covered the contents of the vehicles. So that instance, we had to eat the $10,000, buy all the new tools. And then now we have a policy that covers our tools if the van gets broken into. So that was a bummer too. The hardest thing was, and I mean, it all worked out. It was through the company and everything when my tools got stolen. And I'm not trying to top you guys that had your story. I'm just sharing my story. But the bummer, the hardest part about getting all your stuff stolen out of your van is that you don't know what's in your van. There's so much stuff in there that it takes you. I'm not joking with you. It was almost a year later that I went looking for the next year, I should say. There was multiple times where I went out to go find something and I couldn't find it, and then it was like, oh, that must have got stolen. You know, so there's things in your van that you don't always use, and then when you need them, you go to get them. So when everything got stolen out of my van, I didn't even know what got stolen. You know, like I knew the big stuff, the drills and the at the time all my iManifold stuff, which was the biggest portion of that $10,000. But all my iManifold stuff and all that fancy stuff was stolen, and you know, but it was all the little stuff. You know, like for instance, my tachometer. You know, for setting pulleys and RPMs on exhaust fans and different stuff. That was something that I found like months later that I needed to go get my tachometer. And it's like, where's my tachometer? Oh, no, that got stolen. It was that kind of stuff. You were constantly finding out for the rest of the year what else was in there. So, okay, let's keep going here. See if there's anything else that I'm missing, guys. Hey, Adam, how you doing, bud? Yeah, that's a bummer. The whole insurance thing sucks with tools and different stuff. Like I said, now we have a policy, so that covers all that. Okay. Let's see if I missed anything else. All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap this up because we're almost going on an hour and a half. So unless you guys throw anything else in here right now, we're going to wrap it up. Okay, so guys, AK says that pump is $4.99. So I'm totally going to pick that up when it does come out, just to try it out. Not that I have $499 to throw away, but I definitely am just going to pick it up just to check out the pump. It's definitely a cool little pump. So, Robbie G, you said opinions on a company replacing your tools if they were stolen. You know, that was we would do that. You know, okay, so here's the deal. If one of my vans got broken into and my employees had their puck locks on the outside of the vans like they're supposed to, then, you know, we would cover it, whether the insurance took care of it or not. I mean, we would, you know, that's a company expense for sure. Now, if one of my employees, if I found out they didn't have the puck locks on the outside of their vans and someone just busted a door and got into them, then we would have a problem. You know, that's basically known to all my employees, is that we put those puck locks on our vans right after mine got broken into, and you know, to protect that situation. So if my guys weren't keeping their puck locks on their vans and then they got broken into and all this stuff got cleaned out, yeah, that we would have a problem with that one, and we'd have to talk to the employee about that. So let's see. Iced up Canada. Nope. Guy, I'm so sorry to say this to you guys, but I was working, and I'll have a video coming out for it soon. But I think if you guys follow my social media, you may have seen the video that I put on social media about an iced up evaporative cooler. The cell deck pad was frozen solid because a water solenoid valve stuck open on the thing, and it had been running in low temps. Well, I had to go up to diagnose that system today, and it was like 43 degrees, and I was freezing like a baby. I had a beanie. I had my Carhartt on. I was bundled up, and I was still freezing. Us guys in here in California, like, I realize it. We don't know what cold is, because 45 degrees I was losing my mind. Like, I couldn't do it. I was just sitting here thinking, like, and I had another guy there doing a PM downstairs, and I was talking to him, and I was telling him, like, I couldn't do the jumpsuit stuff. Like, I had a hard time in my Carhartt jacket moving. Like, I felt confined and restricted. I couldn't imagine how you guys deal with the cold. That would drive me nuts. Okay. Yeah, definitely AK. I would definitely get an extra battery, maybe even 2 extra batteries, depending on what you're going to be using that thing on. So, yeah, that's funny, Nathan. Well, guys, I think AK is going to address this, but he was saying they're not going to be Makita. Yeah, okay, he's addressing it right now. AK just said they're not going to be Makita when it's released. They were just using that as a test. See, oftentimes, guys, what you don't realize, like, because I've done beta testing for other people before, is oftentimes they will release multi-versions of products. And usually right before release, they'll start letting people show it on social media, like the products they've been testing. And oh, thanks a lot, James. But when they start testing products, they'll revise that product multiple times. I wish I could tell you guys about some stuff right now, but in the future it'll come out, and I'll make sure that the manufacturer is okay with it, and maybe I can share the process of beta testing something. It's very interesting because a beta test on a product might take a year or two, where they revise that product so many times. So I might be working with a product, whatever it is, that is nothing like it's going to be a year from now. And it's very interesting to do those beta tests. So that makes sense that they're using, say, for instance, on that Hvacr pump, they're using a Makita battery because they're doing, like, they might have been in the beta test version, but on the production version, they might get rid of that for whatever reason. Or, oftentimes manufacturers, like, say, for instance, I have no idea if this is the case with Hvacr, but oftentimes, let's just say a Makita battery fits in there, right? Well, oftentimes a sister company or a cousin company of Makita might end up making the battery. It may still be Makita making it, but they might brand it differently, or they might have different connectors on it and different things, just to preserve the quality of Makita itself. Because if Makita, I'm just making assumptions here, but if Makita put their name on the battery, or their batteries were compatible with that pump, then, maybe if the pump didn't work out, it could reflect badly on Makita. Or let's say maybe there was fires with the batteries or whatever, it could look badly on Makita. Or Makita, I should say. So that's why I would imagine, even though a company like Makita or whoever makes their batteries might still make the new battery that's going to come with that, it'll probably have, the Makita battery probably won't fit on there anymore or something like that. So I keep saying we're going to shut this thing down, but then more questions come in, so I'm going to keep talking until you guys are done here. So out of curiosity, Nathan, 6:30 p.m., you said 321. So is my audio still really low? Like, is it so low that you guys are having to turn the volume up, so then that way when the super chat came in, it was too loud? Is that what you were talking about? I'm in between playing with mixers right now, so that's why. But gotcha. Okay. So that's what it is. My audio levels are just too low, and it's causing... Yeah, okay. Then I'll fix it. I'm not going to change it right now, but I'll fix it on the next. Sorry, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. Here. I'm going to show you guys what the problem is. So I've been waiting for a long time for this badass, and I'm kind of pissed off about it right now, so I'm going to blow them up. I've been waiting for this badass Rode mixer, right? Paid a bunch of money for it because it's like the end-all be-all for podcasts, all this fancy stuff. And I've been waiting for... I pre-ordered this all the way back in November or October or something like that, okay? And I finally got it, and it doesn't work right. Now, granted, they're going to fix it. They're going to get me another one, but it's been really frustrating. I still believe in this product, but so what happened was right before I went on to the podcast or to the video today, my mixer stopped working again. And just to be safe, I switched it back to my backup mixer. And so that's why my audio levels aren't where they're supposed to be, because I'm not used to where everything's supposed to be. So I apologize. Okay, let's keep going here. See if I'm missing anything else. Did I answer that question about the wine chiller, Adam? I can't remember. Okay, so you said you sent me a message a few weeks ago about a wine chiller. Guys, if you guys send me emails and stuff and I don't answer them, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I like to try to answer everything. So, okay, cool. I answered you. But, yeah, make sure you... for those of you that do send me questions, if I don't answer you within like a week, send me another email. You're not going to bug me. I'll answer it eventually. Or it's same thing with comments and different things. Like, keep saying it. There's just so many comments that come through that I miss them. So, okay. So Adam, you said you sent me a message about a wine chiller. One more question about the same unit. The compressor rattled from the get-go. Never seen that on a new compressor. Yeah, I mean, a compressor shouldn't rattle, but I don't know what you mean by that. I mean, is the compressor shaking because it's getting liquid refrigerant coming back on the side? Or is it just... I mean, what's going on? Like, or is it just a rattle because the rubber bushings aren't there or something? I worry when you say a rattle. Yeah, that's not good. Andrew, yes. Andrew Hicks, you said, is there a battery-powered evacuation pump in the works? Yes, there is. AK, who's 4 comments above yours right now, has a almost production version of a Hvacr battery-powered vacuum pump. Okay, the only other manufacturer that I know of that came out with a battery-powered vacuum pump was, I don't think it, no, I think in another country there was it Makita made a battery-powered vacuum pump or something? Someone else, but I think that's the first one in the U.S., isn't it? Anyways, so Hvacr is releasing the pump. It is not out yet. It will be out in a couple months, I believe. Andrew could probably answer you if he's still in here. But he has one. He's got a video. So go over to AK Greaves' channel, AKHVAC, right above your comment, and he has a video on that battery-operated vacuum pump. It's definitely a cool little thing. It's not meant for giant systems. It's meant for tiny little systems, but it's like a 3 CFM pump. It's badass. So check it out, man. But go over to AK's channel. He's got a video on it. So, and I'm sure you guys are all subscribed to AK's channel, but if you're not, subscribe to his channel. So, how do you like the video when watching it? Tim Shields, you're asking that question. So you need to exit. Well, yeah, that's a hard question for me to explain to you. Down at the bottom of the video, I don't know if you're watching on your phone or what. Usually you can back out and there's a thumbs up button that you can hit. It depends on if you're watching it on a computer or not. Hey, Total Tech, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I got to wrap this up too, guys. I keep saying I'm going to go, but we're going to have to wrap it up. My family's in the other room probably waiting for dinner. Yeah, there you go. X the chat out and hit the thumbs up. Yeah. So you guys, any questions? hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Like I mentioned, I'm sorry, I keep saying one more thing. Like I mentioned in the very beginning, podcast is probably going to be released in the next week or two. It is going to be called The Absence of Heat. And I will share it on social media. It is not anywhere for you to subscribe to as of yet. So I will share it on social media and everything and let you guys know once it's released, but it will be called The Absence of Heat. So that'll be coming out soon. All right, guys. Good night. Catch y'all later. And let's see if I can figure this out. There we go.